position of secretary in the HCC OESM Club. Stephen is an active member in many organizations that include the Hawaii chapter of the American Society of Safety Engineers, the Hawaii chapter of the American Industrial Hygiene Association. He's a committee member for the Governor's Pacific Rim Safety and Health Conference, member of Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society, and the National Society of Collegiate Scholars. A member of the Dean's List, Stephen will graduate with a 4.0 GPA. The field of occupational safety offers him the opportunity to truly make a positive difference in people's lives. As a safety professional, he feels it is his obligation and duty to protect the workers and their families. Please join me in welcoming your student speaker, Stephen Kalani.
Thank you. Ho'omau. In the Hawaiian language, ho'omau means perseverance and persistence. Ho'omau is a spirit that will help you to endure, to persist, to face adversity, and to never give up. And is this year's graduation theme. Good evening, Chancellor LaCroix, Vice Chancellors, Deans, distinguished guests, faculty, family members, friends, and most of all, my fellow classmates, the graduating class of Honolulu Community College, class of 2013. Aloha, my name is Steve Kalani, and I am honored and humbled to be your class speaker tonight. Now, I'm quite sure that each graduate here has had to overcome obstacles to be here tonight, whether it's working full-time or part-time, finding someone to watch the kids, sacrificing leisure time, and all the while attending classes and studying for tests. Life is a roller coaster, full of ups and downs, of bumps and bruises, of twists and of turns. I was deep into my work career, having already graduated a number of years before, and things were going quite well. The economy was much better then, or so I thought. Then one day, all of a sudden, out of the blue, I was laid off my job. It was budget, they said. You need to make cutbacks, and Steve, I'm sorry, but you're one of them. So I was out of work for a few months before I was able to get another job. I enjoyed this job. In fact, I enjoyed this job so much that I was going to stay there the rest of my life. I was going to retire from there, and everything was going to be all right. And things were good. Life is indeed a roller coaster, and things change. Your company either adapts or gets left behind, and I saw the writing on the wall. It was time to get out before I was pushed out. And eventually my whole department was let go, but by then I had left and I had found another job. But oh, this job was different. Yeah, this job was different. I felt good doing this job. I was helping patients. I saw the sick, the unfortunate, the frail. Those that had a raw deal in life but kept on going. And I admired them. And I loved my job. In fact, I loved my job so much I was going to stay there for the rest of my life. I was going to retire from there and everything was going to be all right. And things were good. It's about this time that my parents' health began to decline. My father had diabetes and he had to have kidney dialysis 3 times weekly. It was so bad that he had to have his left leg amputated. My mother had Sjogren's syndrome, a chronic disease in which white blood cells attack the glands. She also had a tumor that rendered her virtually blind. On April 22nd, 2006, my mother was admitted to Kukini Hospital. And a few days after that, my father was admitted to St. Francis Hospital. Eventually, my mother was diagnosed with lymphoma cancer, and because of her already frail health, the doctors were not very optimistic. But even in his weakened state, my father always asked about my mother. I didn't tell him that her diagnosis was dire, and that she was doing just fine. My mother asked the same thing about my father, although I did not tell her that he was also in the hospital. And on May 9, 2006, my father passed away. The hardest thing my brother and I ever had to do was to walk into my mother's room, kneel by the side of her bed, and tell her that her husband had been in the hospital and that he had passed away, that her husband of 42 years was gone. She started to cry, but being a strong Christian woman, she knew that he was in a better place. I desperately needed spiritual guidance and started going back to church that my parents and I had visited on occasion. And 5 days after my father's funeral, I decided to join that church. At the new member orientation, I met a very attractive young lady who was on the welcoming committee. It really was truly love at first sight. In my mind, I knew this was the kind of girl that I had always dreamed of. But with my mother in the hospital and trying to deal with all the state and hospital red tape and her mounting medical bills, while I pushed thoughts of her aside. But in time, I got to know this beautiful girl and how similar our backgrounds were. Her father had passed away a few years ago from a heart attack, and she worked 3 jobs to put herself through graduate school. She visited my mother in the hospital whenever she could, and I found out what a warm, caring, and kind person she was. Despite all the hardships I was going through at the time, my feelings for her increased. My mother was never able to leave that hospital, and 8 months later, on December 30th, 2006, she joined my father. Once again, I was absolutely grief-stricken. But my angel was there for me when I needed her the most. And despite all this adversity, our love blossomed. And I proposed to her on November 16th, her birthday. Life was finally looking up for once, and we eagerly planned our wedding. Then one day, all of a sudden, out of the blue, I was laid off. It was a budget, they said. We need to make cutbacks, Steve, and I'm sorry, but you're one of them. Does that sound familiar? I couldn't believe it. I just could not believe it, and this was 8 days before our wedding, which is going to be the greatest day in our lives. After the wedding, reality quickly sunk in as I went back for my last few days of work. My now wife suggested that I apply for a part-time job at the same company, but in a different department. I was reluctant, but I did, and actually I got the job. Not only that, but during the interview, I was promised that the position would go full-time. I was excited. Things were looking up, and everything again was going to be all right. 15 months later, the job was still part-time, and I was struggling to get hours every week. Although I was receiving benefits, I felt I was getting nowhere. I did not want to burden my new bride any longer. The only option I thought was looking for another full-time job, and of course with the possibility of being laid off yet again. It was then that my wife mentioned, well, Steve, do you think about going back to school? How about going back to school? Go back to school? Me go back to school after all these years? I'm going to have to go and sit in the classroom and take tests and take quizzes and maybe give presentations in front of people. I'm too shy. I can't do that. I don't even know PowerPoint. But I did. I still wanted to keep my part-time job. But she told me that she would support us. And she told me to go to HCC full-time. We knew it was going to be rough. We would both have to make sacrifices to get through this together. She had confidence in me that I could do this. More confidence than I had in myself. She was my biggest supporter and my greatest motivation. She got me through times when I would get frustrated and times when I thought I couldn't do it. Our mutual faith played a big part in the most difficult of times. There were times we prayed together, times we cried together, and times we hung onto each other for support. But we always did it together. She is the real reason why I am here today. And as you look out upon this audience, I can see friends and family that have supported you as well. It's been a long road to where I was to where I am now. I never imagined that I would be here today. The reason for my story is this. My journey here is but one of many, because each and every one of you has your own story to tell. You have sacrificed to be here today, and those who love you have sacrificed for you to be here today as well. But you have persisted. You have persevered. And no matter what your background is, no matter what your economic or social status, no matter how you got here, the point is, you got here. Now is the time to make the most of it. It's your time to shine. When life gets rough, play to your strengths in the face of adversity. These difficulties will test you, but it will make you stronger. Rather than being discouraged or disappointed, look at it as an opportunity to rise to the occasion. It's your time to shine. I call out to those who are here today to celebrate your graduates' accomplishments. After the ceremony, when you greet them, give them their leis, their balloons, their gifts, look them in the eye, give them a hug, and say, I am so proud of you, because they deserve it. I would like to thank the faculty and administration of HCC for your dedication and hard work in the pursuit of teaching excellence. You have played a major part in the rebirth of my life, and no doubt of countless graduates that have come before me. I would like to end on a quote by automaker Henry Ford. Life is a series of experiences, each one which makes us bigger, even though sometimes it's hard to realize this. For the world was built to develop character, and we must learn that the setbacks and griefs we endure in life help us in marching onward. Ho'omau. Perseverance, persistence. To my peers, the graduating class of Honolulu Community College, I wish you the greatest of luck, and God bless. Thank you.
This evening, we are both proud and honored to have Pono Shim with us to deliver the 2013 Commencement Address. Mr. Shim is the President and CEO of Enterprise Honolulu, Oahu's Economic Development Board, that is the leading agency that supports jobs